AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner at my house and causing a huge family fight. So I, 32F, am in a bit of a mess, and I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting. My sister, 28F, recently got engaged, and we've been planning the usual pre-wedding events. She and her fiancé are planning a fairly big wedding, and naturally, there's been talk about the rehearsal dinner. Here's the thing. She asked me to host it at my house. I live in a modest 3-bedroom townhouse, not a mansion, and while I love hosting small get-togethers, this would mean accommodating about 40 to 50 people in my living room, dining area, and backyard. I have no experience with catering for large events, and my budget is nowhere near what a professional event requires. When she first asked, I told her honestly that I didn't think I could host 50 people comfortably and suggested a local restaurant or event hall instead. She immediately got upset, saying that I was not being supportive and turning my back on her big day. I tried explaining that I wanted to support her, but in a way that didn't turn my home into a chaotic mess or put me under financial strain, but she brushed it off. Then the guilt tripping started. She sent me a long message about how it would mean so much if I hosted it, how all our cousins and family would be there, and how she was counting on me to make it happen. She kept emphasizing that I was the oldest sibling and it was my duty to host family events. I stood firm and told her I simply couldn't do it. I suggested splitting some of the responsibilities instead. Maybe I could help with decorations, or I could coordinate catering if it was held elsewhere. But she rejected every alternative. The day after this discussion, my parents called me. They were upset and said I was being difficult and ruining family unity. They even suggested I could temporarily rent a bigger space and host the dinner there, but that would have meant shelling out over $2,000 that I simply don't have. I reminded them that it's not financially feasible for me and that she could host it at a venue without me going bankrupt. They argued that families should help each other out and that I was being selfish. Things escalated when I got a group text from most of my relatives. They were mostly venting, saying things like, "You're making this about money," or "Can't you just help your sister for one night?" One cousin even implied I didn't care about family traditions because I won't open my house. I tried to explain calmly, saying that I wanted to be involved in other ways and that my financial and space limitations were genuine, but they didn't take it well. I felt cornered and stressed. My sister accused me of sabotaging her wedding and said she'd have to find someone else to host. I told her she could, but that I wouldn't change my mind. That only made her angrier. She started posting vague messages on social media about how some people in my family only care about themselves and tag me indirectly, which caused a few other distant relatives to message me as well, taking her side. At this point, I feel like I'm the villain in my own life. My house, my money, my stress. Yet somehow I'm being made out to be the bad guy. I'm planning on keeping my boundaries because I genuinely can't host an event of this scale, but I also feel a deep sadness that my relationship with my sister and parents is strained over this. My friends mostly tell me I'm right to stick to my limits, but I'm losing sleep over the constant texts and guilt trips. I want to be supportive of my sister's wedding, but I can't do something that will push me into financial hardship and extreme stress. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's rehearsal dinner at my house, even though it caused a major family fallout? Character count, 6,421 if you want. I can also write a version that hits closer to 7,000 characters, adding more family drama, cousin perspectives, and sibling tension to make it feel like one of those viral long Reddit posts. It would make it even more immersive. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my apartment after he broke up with her. I, 28F, live in a city apartment I rent on my own. I moved here for work a few years ago, and it's just me and my cat, Luna. I've always been independent, and my friends joke that I live by the "my space, my rules" motto. My sister, Megan, 32F, lives in another state and has always been a bit of a drama magnet, but she's my sister, so I try to be supportive even when things are messy. Megan has been dating her fiancé, Dan, 33M, for about 3 years. When they first got together, I liked him well enough. He seemed fun and easygoing, and he made Megan happy, which was all I really cared about. Over time, though, I noticed some red flags. He could be controlling, passive-aggressive, and at times downright disrespectful toward Megan. I tried to stay out of it because I figured it wasn't my place to interfere, and I didn't want to start family drama over a relationship that wasn't mine. Fast forward to a few months ago. Megan called me hysterical. She and Dan had broken up. According to her, Dan just wasn't ready for marriage and left her after she had started talking about wedding plans. I was upset for her, of course. She was heartbroken, but the part that shocked me was the next thing she said. She was calling me because she wanted to know if Dan could stay at my apartment for a while. She said he didn't have anywhere else to go because he had moved out of their shared apartment and that his parents lived too far to help him immediately. I told her no, flat out. I've never liked having people in my space for long periods, and Dan leaving Megan was not my problem. She begged, cried, and even tried guilt-tripping me, saying things like, "He's in shock. He has no one else to turn to, and I can't believe my own sister won't help him." I stayed firm, told her I'm sorry she's hurting, but I wasn't letting him move in and suggested he could stay at a cheap motel or with one of his friends until he figured things out. Apparently, she called him anyway and told him he could try talking to me. A few days later, he showed up at my apartment door. I wasn't there at the time, but my roommate, who sometimes watches Luna when I travel, said he was knocking and ringing the bell nonstop. She told him I wasn't available and that he needed to leave, but he refused. He kept saying, "Megan said you'd let me stay, and I don't know anyone else here." My roommate eventually called me in tears because he was arguing with her and making her uncomfortable. I immediately called Dan and told him again that he was not welcome, and I blocked his number after he kept pleading and saying things like, "I'll only stay a night or two," and "You don't understand. She sent me here." After this, Megan lost it. She started texting me every day, accusing me of being cruel, selfish, and unsupportive. She said she couldn't believe I would deny help to someone who had been part of my family for 3 years. She said things like, "I don't care if you think he's an asshole. He's devastated and you're supposed to care about him." She even suggested that our relationship was in jeopardy because I wasn't a good sister. I tried reasoning with her, explaining that he was no longer her partner, that he had shown himself to be manipulative and entitled, and that I shouldn't have to take responsibility for cleaning up the aftermath of her breakup. I reminded her that I was happy to help her process things, but that did not extend to housing her ex-fiancé. She accused me of being cruel, heartless, and immature. I told her I wasn't going to argue about it anymore, and that if she wanted to remain in contact, she needed to respect my boundaries. Things escalated further. A mutual friend called me and said Megan had posted about me on social media, framing me as the evil sister who refused to help a man in emotional distress. People I barely knew were sending me DMs questioning why I would deny him shelter. I tried to ignore it, but it hurt because it was spreading lies. I didn't even post anything. I just refused to let him in. Since then, Megan has stopped talking to me except for occasional passive-aggressive texts like, "I guess some people don't care about family," or "Hope you're proud of yourself." I feel like I did nothing wrong. I have boundaries, I have a right to my own home, and Dan is not my responsibility. I also feel like her expecting me to house him after he broke her heart and left her is unfair. But now, I'm getting mixed messages from friends and family. Some think I was harsh, while others say I was entirely justified. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's ex-fiancé move into my apartment after he broke up with her. Character count, 6,403, white heavy checkmark if you want. I can also draft an even longer, twist-filled version closer to 7,000 characters that includes more emotional build-up, detailed confrontations, and subtle family drama. Basically a story that reads like the top posts that go viral. It will be more immersive and tense. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for confronting my brother over my niece's birthday gift and causing a huge family fallout? So this is going to be long, but I need to get it all out to explain the situation. 32F. have a younger brother, Mark, 28M, and he has a daughter, Emma, who just turned 5. I have always been really close to Emma, and I make it a point to celebrate every milestone in her life. I'm also someone who really values thoughtfulness when it comes to gifts, especially for kids. I genuinely believe that the effort and thought you put into gifts for young children matter more than the monetary value. This year, I decided to throw Emma a small birthday party at my house. I invited a few of our family members, including Mark and his wife, Sarah, and I spent weeks planning decorations, games, and a themed cake that I personally baked and decorated. I even made goodie bags for all the kids. I really wanted it to be special because I know how fleeting these moments are. Now, here's where the problem started. Mark and Sarah arrived late to the party, which was annoying but not a huge deal. When Emma started opening gifts, I noticed that Mark's gift seemed odd. He had bought Emma a large, expensive electronic toy, a tablet specifically made for kids. But instead of wrapping it nicely, he had put it in a generic store bag. No card, nothing. Normally, that would be fine, but what made it worse was that when Emma unwrapped it, she seemed confused. She didn't really react with excitement, and she immediately went back to opening the other gifts, which were smaller but much more personalized, like a handmade puzzle from her aunt, me, and a book with her name on it from her grandparents. After the party, while helping clean up, I confronted Mark about the gift. I asked him why he didn't put any thought into wrapping or even including a card. I tried to frame it in a way that was concerned for Emma, saying, it's not about the cost, but kids love the presentation and knowing someone thought about them. Mark immediately got defensive. He said I was overreacting and that I was making Emma's birthday about me rather than her. He claimed that gifts shouldn't matter and that he didn't want to play into the commercialization of childhood. I tried to explain that I wasn't criticizing the gift itself, just the lack of effort, but he wouldn't hear it. He said I was acting superior and that my attitude was ruining our relationship. Then he dropped the line that really stung. He said he had spent a lot of money on the tablet, and I was ungrateful for making it about wrapping and presentation. We ended up arguing in front of Sarah, and she tried to mediate, but mostly just looked frustrated with both of us. After that, Mark left the party early and hasn't spoken to me since. The fallout hasn't stopped there. Our parents called me to see why the party ended in tension, and my mom asked if I had overstepped. My dad was neutral, but suggested I might have been a little too critical. Meanwhile, Mark has been posting passive-aggressive comments on social media about people missing the point of love and gifts and subtly tagging me. I tried reaching out to apologize if I hurt his feelings, emphasizing that I only wanted Emma to have a happy birthday, but he hasn't responded. Here's the thing. I genuinely feel like I was justified. Emma is 5. She noticed the lack of presentation, and she did get excited about the other gifts, which makes me think she subconsciously noticed the difference. I also feel that Mark's reaction was extreme. He completely shut me out instead of talking it through like an adult. But now, the entire family is divided. Some agree with me that thoughtfulness matters and that Mark overreacted. Others think I should have just let it go and not lecture him about his gift. I've been feeling guilty, though, because I really don't want to lose my brother over this, but at the same time, I don't think I was wrong in trying to have a discussion about it. I never told him he was a bad parent or that he didn't care about Emma. I literally just asked him why he didn't add a card or wrap the gift nicely. It seems like that simple conversation turned into a huge conflict that no one seems willing to reconcile. So, AITA for confronting my brother about his gift to my niece, even though I only had her best interest in mind? Or was he overreacting by taking offense at something that was meant as a gentle nudge rather than an attack? I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around the family now, and I hate that a birthday meant to celebrate Emma turned into this huge drama. I really just want to know if I messed up or if my brother completely misread the situation. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take our family heirloom for their wedding. This all started a few months ago, and honestly, I feel like I might be overreacting, but I need some perspective because my family is already divided, and I'm starting to doubt myself. My sister, Claire, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We're 5 years apart, grew up in the same house, but she was always the golden child, the one our parents were more lenient with, while I had to be careful with everything. We've never been super close, but we had a mutual respect for each other. Over the years, we've had our fights, mostly over family expectations, and there's always been some tension when it comes to our parents' possessions. Anyway, our grandmother passed away about 5 years ago. She left behind some things for both of us, but one item was extremely special to me: a silver necklace with a small sapphire pendant. It's been in my family for 3 generations, and it was my grandmother's favorite piece. She gave it to me on my 18th birthday, telling me it was a rite of passage and that she wanted me to carry on our family tradition with it. I've never taken it off, and it means a lot to me, not just monetarily, but sentimentally. Fast forward to a few months ago, Claire got engaged. She's been with her fiancé, Derek, for 2 years. Derek is fine, I guess. I don't dislike him, but he's very overbearing, and he has this way of talking about things in terms of what looks good rather than what people feel. He seems to think weddings are more like photo shoots or competitions. Claire has started changing a lot since getting engaged. She's more controlling. She talks about our perfect day constantly, and while I don't care about the specifics, she started asking me for things that I feel are a bit much. Here's the problem. A few weeks ago, Claire asked if she could borrow my grandmother's necklace to wear for her wedding. I told her I wasn't comfortable with it, explaining that it was a personal family heirloom and very sentimental to me. She said she understood but kept asking in different ways over the following weeks, saying things like, "It would mean so much to me," or "It would make the photos so special," or even, "Grandma would want me to wear it." I refused every time. I explained that I didn't want to risk it getting damaged or lost, and that I wanted to keep it for myself. Claire started sulking and acting hurt every time I said no. Then she told Derek, and suddenly I got a call from him. He was very insistent and a little condescending. He said things like, "It's just for one day, it won't even be touched, and you're overreacting. It's not like she's asking to keep it forever." I stayed firm, but he went on for a good 20 minutes about how selfish I was being. Then it escalated. Claire started making passive-aggressive comments in group chats and at family gatherings. "I guess some people don't understand family traditions. I hope your necklace brings you happiness while the rest of us enjoy our special day," and things like that. My parents started hinting that I should be reasonable and think of her happiness. My parents love Claire a lot, but I don't feel like this is a situation where I'm being unreasonable. A week ago, I found out from a cousin that Derek had called my mom asking if the necklace could be taken from me without my permission. My mom told him no, but he apparently argued, saying it would make the wedding unforgettable and that I was being difficult. I was furious when I heard about that because it felt like a direct attempt to override me. I decided to set boundaries. I sent Claire a text saying, "I know you want the necklace, but I am not lending it to anyone. It is very important to me, and I won't risk it. I hope you can understand and respect that." She replied with a long message saying I was being petty, selfish, and destroying family harmony. Derek also texted, saying I was childish and making this harder than it needs to be. The family divide is now very real. My parents are annoyed with me. Claire barely talks to me, and even some of my cousins have started making comments like, "It's just a necklace. Why make it a big deal?" Meanwhile, I feel like I'm defending a piece of my family history and honoring my grandmother's memory. I honestly can't see myself giving it up, even for a day, because it's so personal to me. I've thought about compromises, like letting her wear it for photos in my presence, but she insists she wants it the whole day without me nearby, and Derek has said that's non-negotiable. I feel like if I cave, it will set a precedent that I don't get to make choices about what's important to me, and I'll be seen as someone who always gives in to Claire and Derek's whims. So now, the tension is high. My parents are pressuring me, Claire is upset, and Derek is acting entitled. I honestly feel like I'm standing up for something that matters deeply to me, but my family sees me as the villain in this situation. Am I really being unreasonable? Or is this a situation where refusing to lend a deeply personal family heirloom for a wedding make me the bad person here? Character count, 6,433 if you want. I can make an even longer version hitting closer to 7,000 characters with more family drama, passive-aggressive text exchanges, and inner monologues, which tend to make stories blow up on Reddit. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to let my partner's teenage daughter make major life decisions without consulting me first. I, 35M, have been dating Emily, 42F, for about 3 years. She has a daughter, Sophie, who is 16. Sophie is a smart, strong-willed teenager, and I genuinely like her most of the time. She's polite to me, and we usually get along, but there's been ongoing tension about boundaries, authority, and how decisions are made in the household. When Emily and I first started dating, I tried to be careful about how I interacted with Sophie. I didn't want to replace her dad or come off as controlling, so I let Emily take the lead on discipline and major household decisions. For the most part, this worked. Sophie respected that, and I respected Emily's position as her parent. I thought we were all on the same page. A few months ago, Emily got a new job in another city. She works long hours and travels frequently, so the responsibility of managing day-to-day life for Sophie often falls on me, especially during weekdays. Initially, I try to keep things simple, making sure she gets to school, helping with homework if she asked, and setting basic rules around curfew, screen time, and chores. Sophie seemed okay with this because it's not like I'm super strict. I just expect basic responsibility. The problem started when Sophie began making unilateral decisions about major aspects of her life without discussing them with me or Emily. It began small. She signed up for an after-school program without telling me, and I only found out when I got an email from the coordinator. I told her she should have asked first because we need to coordinate schedules and finances, and she got really defensive, saying, "I'm 16. I can make my own choices." I reminded her that while she has autonomy, she still lives under our roof, and some decisions need parental involvement. It escalated from there. A couple of weeks ago, she decided she wanted to get a part-time job at a local cafe. She didn't ask me or Emily for permission. She just went ahead and applied. When I found out, I told her she needed parental consent because of labor laws and scheduling conflicts with school. She argued that she was old enough to handle it herself and that I was trying to control her. I ended up speaking with Emily, and we both told her that she could have a job, but only after proper discussion and planning. She grudgingly agreed, but made it clear she thought I was overstepping. Then came the latest incident, which is what prompted me to post here. Sophie told me she wanted to get a tattoo. I was shocked because I've always been clear that tattoos are a serious, permanent decision and that at 16, she cannot legally get one without parental approval. I told her she needed to wait until she's of age and that we could talk about it more seriously when she turns 18. Sophie got upset and started yelling at me, saying I'm controlling and treating her like a child who can't make any decisions. She even sent me a text that said, "You're not my dad. You don't get a say in my life." Emily backed me up in private, but Sophie ran to social media and posted a vague story about her controlling stepdad trying to ruin my life. This has caused a lot of tension in our extended family and friend group because some people are taking her side, saying I should trust her judgment and let her make mistakes. Emily and I both think that teenagers can make mistakes and learn, but part of parenting and co-parenting is setting boundaries and making sure major decisions are made responsibly. I feel stuck. I want to respect Sophie's growing independence, but at the same time, I feel like some boundaries are non-negotiable. Decisions like getting a tattoo, changing schools, or quitting commitments aren't just about her. They affect our household, our schedule, and sometimes even her legal and financial well-being. Sophie doesn't seem to understand this. She keeps framing it as me trying to control her life, but it's more about ensuring she's safe and making decisions that she can actually handle responsibly. Some friends of mine think I'm being too strict and that I should let her make her own choices. Others say I'm justified because she's still a minor living in a household run by adults. Emily says she supports me, but is worried that Sophie might resent me long-term if we keep enforcing rules this way. I feel like if I give in to every unilateral decision Sophie wants to make, we'll have no structure, and her sense of responsibility will suffer. But if I enforce rules strictly, she'll see me as the enemy and start shutting down communication. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my partner's teenage daughter make major life decisions without consulting me first. Character count, 6,547, white heavy check mark if you want. I can write another version with even more drama, twists, and interpersonal conflict, closer to 7,000 characters, in the style of a story that went viral on Reddit, complete with emotional confrontations and subtle moral dilemmas. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé? I, 29F, have always been very close to my younger sister, Emily, 26F. We grew up in a tight-knit family, and even though we sometimes argued like siblings do, we were always there for each other. Over the past couple of years, Emily started dating someone named Derek, 28M. At first, I didn't know him well, but I made an effort to get to know him. From the beginning, I had a weird gut feeling about him, mostly because he seemed incredibly controlling and dismissive toward Emily. I tried to ignore my instincts because I didn't want to judge her relationship, but there were small red flags I couldn't overlook. For example, whenever we all hung out, Derek would constantly belittle Emily in subtle ways, making jokes about her career choices, implying she was overreacting about minor things, or interrupting her whenever she spoke. He also seemed to want to control the plans she made, even trivial stuff like what restaurant we went to or how she spent her weekends. I didn't say much at first because I didn't want to be labeled as the overbearing sister who disapproves of her siblings' relationship. But the more I observed, the more uncomfortable I became. Fast forward to last year, Derek proposed to Emily, and naturally, she was thrilled. Our family was excited too, but I began noticing more concerning behavior in the lead-up to the wedding. He insisted on making all the major decisions, even ones that traditionally involve the bride, like the seating chart, color scheme, and guest list. When Emily expressed preferences that differed from his, he would sigh, roll his eyes, or guilt-trip her into agreeing with him. It all came to a head when Emily asked me for help planning her bachelorette party. I want to make it special, so I invited a few close friends. As soon as Derek found out, he demanded that he be included in the planning and wanted to control the guest list. I told him I thought a bachelorette party was traditionally women only, but he dismissed me and said Emily needed to respect his opinion. Emily seemed conflicted, but eventually sided with him, saying she didn't want any drama before the wedding. That was the point I realized I could no longer ignore what I was seeing. A few weeks ago, Emily sent me her wedding invitation. I didn't respond immediately because I wasn't sure what to do. I finally called her and explained that I had been noticing a pattern in how Derek treated her and that I didn't feel comfortable attending the wedding as long as he was there. I tried to emphasize that my issue wasn't with her, but with how I saw him behave toward her. I told her that I loved her and wanted her to be happy, but I couldn't in good conscience celebrate someone who seemed to manipulate and belittle her. Emily completely lost it. She accused me of trying to ruin her relationship and called me judgmental. She said that Derek had never been controlling and that I was making assumptions based on a few awkward interactions. She even claimed that my behavior was selfish and that I was prioritizing my discomfort over her happiness. Our parents got involved, and they were torn. My mom seemed sympathetic but worried about family drama, while my dad was frustrated with me for causing tension. I haven't spoken to Emily since that call. I sent her a message saying I loved her and wished her the best, but I didn't want to be at the wedding. She responded with a long message calling me toxic and accusing me of trying to sabotage her special day. She also mentioned that Derek had told her about my attitude toward him, making her question whether I was capable of being supportive of her decisions. My friends are divided. Some say I was right to stick up for my boundaries and protect my sister, while others argue I overstepped and should have gone to the wedding regardless of my personal feelings. I feel torn because I don't want to lose my relationship with Emily, but I also can't ignore what I perceive as harmful behavior toward her. I keep thinking about what could happen if I attended the wedding and pretended everything was fine. I would feel complicit in something I morally disagree with. I haven't heard from Emily since her last message, and I honestly don't know if she'll ever speak to me again. Part of me feels guilty because weddings are supposed to be about family support, and I do love her dearly. The other part of me feels like attending would compromise my values and send the wrong message. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I don't like or trust her fiancé. Character count, 6571. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé be part of my wedding because of something that happened years ago. I, 29F, have always been very close to my younger sister, Emily, 27F. We've been inseparable since childhood, sharing everything from clothes to secrets. And even though we're adults now, that closeness hasn't faded. When Emily got engaged last year, I was genuinely thrilled for her, and she told me from the start that she wanted me to play a big part in her wedding. I was honored and excited to help her plan, pick dresses, and generally be involved in the way sisters usually are. However, there's a major complication. Emily's fiancé, Jake, 30M. I met Jake for the first time about 3 years ago at a mutual friend's party. Emily had been dating him casually at that point, and I was polite but kept my distance because something happened that night that has completely stuck with me. During the party, Jake got drunk and started telling a story about one of his ex-girlfriends in a way that made me extremely uncomfortable. I don't even remember the specifics because it was mostly crude jokes and highly personal information he had no business sharing, but the gist of it was that he treated his previous partners horribly and seemed to find it funny. When I tried to change the subject or politely excuse myself, he made a snide remark, basically suggesting that I must be uptight or had no sense of humor. I left the party early and told Emily later that I didn't feel comfortable around him. Emily laughed it off and said he was just drunk, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was toxic and disrespectful. Fast forward to now. Emily has been dating Jake seriously for a while, and he's clearly planning to marry her. We had many discussions over the past year about wedding logistics. Emily assumed that since I'm her sister, I would be involved in every aspect of her big day, including spending time with her fiancé. I've been trying to navigate this carefully because I don't want to cause family drama, but I also can't pretend to feel comfortable around someone who has made me feel unsafe and disrespected in the past. About 2 months ago, Emily casually mentioned that she wanted me to help pick out Jake's wedding attire and coordinate with him on some planning details. I froze and told her honestly that I wasn't comfortable working directly with him because of the way he behaved at that party years ago. I tried to frame it as, I'm trying to protect our relationship, but she immediately became defensive. She said I was holding a grudge over something that happened years ago, and that people change. She pointed out that Jake had been nothing but kind and polite since she started dating him seriously. I agreed that he seemed fine now, but I also explained that the way he treated women in the past worries me, and that I can't just ignore it, especially when it comes to something as significant as her wedding. Since then, tensions have escalated. Emily has told me repeatedly that my refusal is making her feel like I'm judging her choices and that I'm essentially forcing her to choose between me and her fiancé. She's brought up my behavior in front of our parents, who are now subtly pressuring me to get over it because of the family event and everyone should get along. I tried to compromise by saying I would attend the wedding and interact politely, but I won't be doing any planning with him or spending extended time alone with him. Emily said that's not enough and that I'm being unreasonable. Our parents have suggested that if I can't be friendly toward Jake, maybe I shouldn't be in the wedding party at all. I told them that I love Emily and want to celebrate her, but I cannot put myself in situations where I feel unsafe or uncomfortable, and that includes direct collaboration with Jake. This situation has turned into a huge source of stress. Emily barely speaks to me outside of necessary family interactions, and she's hinted that I might be betraying her. My other friends and extended family are starting to ask questions, and it's becoming increasingly awkward. I understand that she's excited and wants everyone to be on board with her wedding, but I also feel like my boundaries and feelings are being completely ignored. It's her big day, yes, but I can't compromise my own sense of safety and comfort for it. I also want to clarify that I am not trying to sabotage the wedding or ruin Emily's happiness. I've offered multiple compromises, such as attending everything, helping with general planning that doesn't involve Jake, and being supportive from the sidelines. My main sticking point is any interaction that involves me working with Jake directly or being alone with him. I feel that's a reasonable boundary given the history, but Emily and my parents see it as an overreaction. I'm starting to feel like they're pressuring me into betraying my own judgment and comfort. I'm struggling because I love my sister dearly, but I also can't ignore how unsafe and disrespected I felt around her fiancé in the past. I considered giving in just to avoid family conflict, but I know I would resent it, and probably snap at some point. Emily says I'm being dramatic and holding onto a grudge unnecessarily, and my parents are siding with her more and more. I keep wondering if I'm being unreasonable by not letting Jake be part of the planning process, or if my caution is justified given what happened. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé be part of my wedding preparation because of something he did years ago. AITA for refusing to give my brother the money for my wedding fund after he called my marriage a waste of time. I, 30F, am getting married later this year to my fiancé, Alex, 32M. We've been together for 7 years, engaged for 1, and we've been saving aggressively for our wedding since before the engagement. We're not rich, but we're careful. We cut back on vacations, rarely eat out, and both took on side work, so we wouldn't need to take on debt or ask family for help. The money we saved is strictly our wedding fund and sits in a separate account. My older brother, Mark, 35M, has always had a very different approach to life. He's charismatic and fun, but also impulsive. He changes jobs frequently, spends money as soon as he gets it, and believes things will work out somehow. Our parents have bailed him out more times than I can count, and I've helped too in smaller ways, like covering rent once or paying for his car repair. Every time, he promises it's the last time. It never is. About 2 months ago, Mark called me in a panic. He said he was being evicted because he was behind on rent and that he needed a large sum of money fast. The amount he asked for was almost exactly what Alex and I had saved so far for our wedding. I told him I didn't have that kind of money available. He said he knew about the wedding fund because our mom had mentioned it and that it's just sitting there anyway. I explained that the money was already allocated and not available. That's when things got ugly. He started saying things like, "You're choosing a party over your own brother, and you can get married at a courthouse. My situation is an emergency." I told him I was sorry he was struggling, but I wasn't going to empty our wedding fund. He then said something that really stuck with me. "Your marriage will probably end in divorce like half of them do. At least my rent is a real, immediate problem." I was stunned. I told him that was cruel and uncalled for. He doubled down and said weddings are a scam, marriage is pointless, and that I was being naive for thinking it mattered. I told him that even if he believed that, it didn't give him the right to demand money or insult my relationship. I said no again and ended the call. Since then, the fallout has been intense. My parents called me and said Mark was desperate and that I should be the bigger person. They suggested I could lend him the money and rebuild the fund later, even though they know how hard we work for it. When I reminded them that Mark had insulted my marriage, they brushed it off and said he was stressed and didn't mean it. They also pointed out that Alex and I both have stable jobs, while Mark is just going through a rough patch. Alex fully supports my decision, but he feels hurt too. He said it feels like my family sees our relationship as optional or less important than Mark's repeated financial mistakes. A few relatives have reached out saying I'm being selfish and materialistic and that family should come first. Mark sent me a long text saying I've changed, that money has made me cold, and that when he ends up homeless, it'll be on my conscience. Here's the thing that's making me doubt myself. Part of me does feel guilty. I don't want my brother to be homeless. But another part of me feels like this is the consequence of years of bad decisions and entitlement. I also know that if I give him this money, there's a very real chance I'll never see it again, and Alex and I will have to either postpone our wedding or go into debt. On top of that, I can't get past what he said about my marriage being a waste of time. I've offered to help in other ways, like helping him look for cheaper housing, budgeting, or even storing his things temporarily if needed. He rejected all of that and said if I really cared, I'd just give him the money. At this point, he's barely speaking to me unless it's to guilt trip me. So, AITA for refusing to give my brother the money for my wedding fund after he insulted my marriage and demanded it like he was entitled to it? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to give my sister half of a house I inherited and banning her from my wedding. Because of it, I, 29F, lost my grandmother 2 years ago. She basically raised me. My parents divorced when I was young. My mom worked nonstop, and my dad disappeared for long stretches. My grandmother lived 5 minutes from my school and was the person who made dinner, helped with homework, and showed up to every recital. My sister, Lena, 33F, had a very different relationship with her. Lena moved out at 18, barely visited, and openly complained that our grandmother was controlling and old-fashioned. When my grandmother got sick, I was the one who moved in with her. I managed her medications, appointments, bills, and eventually hospice care. Lena came by maybe 4 times in the last year of her life, usually for under an hour, and once left early because she had plans. I don't say this to paint myself as a saint, but it matters. After my grandmother passed, it turned out she had left me her house. It's a modest but well-kept 3-bedroom in a good area. The will was clear and notarized. Lena was left some jewelry and a small savings account my grandmother had set aside years earlier. At the time, Lena didn't argue. She said, "I figured this would happen," and that was that. Fast forward to now. I got engaged last year, and my fiancé and I decided to renovate the house and live there. We're paying for everything ourselves. When the renovation started, Lena suddenly became very interested in the house. She started dropping by unannounced, making comments about how she could totally see herself living here and asking what we planned to do with the extra room. Then she sat me down and said she'd been thinking and felt it was only fair that we split the house or I buy her out for half the market value. I laughed because I genuinely thought she was joking. She wasn't. She said that even if she wasn't close to our grandmother at the end, she was still her granddaughter and deserved half. She also said that if she'd known I'd get the whole house, she would have handled things differently, which honestly felt gross to hear. I told her no. I said the will was clear. I'd taken care of Grandma for years, and the house was mine. I also reminded her that she had already accepted the inheritance at the time. She got angry and accused me of using guilt to steal a family asset. She said Grandma had favored me and that I took advantage of it. Things escalated when she involved our mom. My mom called me crying, saying she just wanted peace, and asking if I could compromise by giving Lena a portion of the house value or letting her live with us for a while so she could save money. Apparently, Lena is struggling financially, which I didn't know because she's always presented herself as doing fine. I said no again. Letting her live with us would be a nightmare. Lena has a history of ignoring boundaries, bringing over random people, and not contributing to shared expenses. I also don't believe I should be responsible for fixing her finances with my inheritance. After that, Lena sent me a long message saying that if I didn't do the right thing, she wouldn't attend my wedding and would make sure the rest of the family knew how selfish I was. I replied that if she couldn't respect my decision and continue to harass me, she wasn't welcome at the wedding anyway. That's when everything blew up. Extended family members started messaging me, saying things like family should share, money changes people, and your grandmother would want you to take care of your sister. A few have outright said I'm greedy and heartless. One aunt told me I should be ashamed to profit off my grandmother's death. What hurts the most is that Lena has started reframing the story. She's telling people I manipulated an elderly woman, isolated her, and convinced her to cut Lena out. None of that is true. My grandmother was sharp until the end and very clear about her choices. She even told me, unprompted, that she was leaving me the house because she wanted me to have stability and because I had already earned it. I tried to talk to Lena one last time and suggested family counseling or mediation. She said she didn't need therapy. She needed what she's owed. At that point, I blocked her. Now my wedding is in 4 months. My mom is begging me to reconsider the ban, saying it's tearing the family apart. My fiancé supports me, but admits this is causing a lot of stress. I'm starting to doubt myself. I don't think I did anything wrong, but so many people are telling me I did. So AITA for keeping the house, refusing to give my sister half, and uninviting her for my wedding over Teach. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding and then uninviting her entirely. I, 29F, am getting married in 3 months to my fiancé, 31M. We're paying for the wedding ourselves and keeping it relatively small, about 60 guests, because we both hate being the center of attention and want something calm and intentional. From the start, we decided it would be a child-free wedding. This wasn't aimed at anyone specific. We just wanted an evening ceremony, open bar, and no chaos. Every invitation clearly stated this, and most people were fine with it. My sister, 34F, has 3 kids under the age of 7. I love them, but they are loud, energetic, and not used to sitting still. My sister also has a habit of letting them run wild while insisting they're just being kids. When I told her about the child-free rule months ago, she laughed and said, "We'll see," which I took as a joke at the time. Last week, she called me and said she needed to confirm logistics. She casually mentioned that she'd need 3 kids' meals and asked if there would be a kids' table. I reminded her that the wedding was child-free and that we'd already discussed this. She immediately got upset and said I was being unrealistic and selfish, and that as the bride's sister, she obviously couldn't be expected to miss the wedding or find childcare. I suggested she get a babysitter or ask her in-laws, who live nearby and regularly watch the kids. She said it was unfair to make her jump through hoops for my aesthetic and that her kids are part of the family whether I like it or not. I told her this wasn't about aesthetics, but about the kind of event we're hosting, and that the rule applied to everyone equally. Things escalated quickly. She accused me of hating her kids and said I was punishing her for being a mother. She brought up how she let me bring my dog to her backyard barbecue last year, as if that was equivalent. I tried to stay calm, but after 20 minutes of going in circles, I told her that if she couldn't respect this boundary, she didn't have to come. That's when she exploded. She said I was tearing the family apart, that our parents would be devastated, and that I was choosing my pretend princess day over my own nieces and nephew. She hung up on me. Within an hour, my mom called, already emotional, asking why I was excluding my sister and the kids. I explained everything, including that my sister never intended to follow the rule. My mom said she understood my perspective, but asked if I could make an exception just for my sister to keep the peace. I said no, because it wouldn't be fair to others who already arranged childcare or declined to attend. She sighed and said she wished I would be the bigger person. Later that night, my dad texted that family should come first and that I'd regret this later. The final straw came 2 days later when my sister posted on social media about how some people forget where they come from once they get a ring, and how children are treated like inconveniences. People who know us started messaging me, asking what was going on. I felt humiliated and angry. I texted her and told her that since she clearly didn't respect me or my wedding, her invitation was revoked. Now my family is split. Some relatives say I'm standing up for myself, and that my sister is entitled. Others say I went too far by uninviting her, and that weddings are about family, not rules. My fiancé fully supports me, but admits this has created more drama than we expected. I'm starting to wonder if I should have just let the kids come to avoid all this, even though it would have made me miserable on my own wedding day. AITA? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after I found out I was being used as unpaid help and a scapegoat? I'm 32F. My sister Emily is 29F and getting married next month. Growing up, Emily was always the golden child. She's charming, emotional in a very public way, and my parents bend over backwards to keep her happy. I was the reliable one, the fixer, the one who was told, "You're stronger, you'll understand," whenever something was unfair. I thought I'd outgrown being bothered by it, but this wedding has dragged every old dynamic back to the surface. When Emily got engaged, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was surprised, but said yes because I genuinely wanted things to be good between us. At first, it was fun. Dress shopping, brainstorming ideas, late-night calls. Then slowly, the expectations piled up. She asked me to coordinate the bridal shower because she didn't trust her friends to do it right. Then the bachelorette because she said I was better with money. Then she asked if I could help manage vendor communications since she was overwhelmed. I work full-time in project management, so I know how to organize things, but this was on top of my actual job. Every time I hesitated, she'd cry and say she just needed me and that I was the only one she could rely on. My parents backed her up, telling me this was a once-in-a-lifetime event and I shouldn't be difficult. I started spending my evenings answering emails, making spreadsheets, chasing RSVPs, and smoothing over issues with the venue. I was also paying up front for things like decorations and party deposits, with the promise I'd be reimbursed later. The breaking point came during a family dinner about 2 months ago. Emily was stressed because one of her bridesmaids dropped out. In front of everyone, she laughed and said, "Well, at least my sister will pick up the slack. She doesn't have a life anyway." Everyone laughed awkwardly. I was stunned. I said that hurt, and Emily rolled her eyes and said I was too sensitive and that I knew she was joking. My mom changed the subject. Later that night, I got a text from Emily asking me to redesign the seating chart because she decided she didn't like it anymore. I told her I needed a break and that her comment earlier wasn't okay. She responded with a long message about how stressed she was, how I was making everything about me, and how if I really loved her, I wouldn't abandon her now. A week later, I found out through one of her friends that Emily had told people I was controlling and making the wedding about my need to feel important. Apparently, she'd been telling others that I insisted on handling everything and wouldn't let her friends help. That was completely untrue. I had multiple messages asking others to take tasks, only to be told Emily wanted me to handle it. I confronted her. She denied it first, then said maybe she'd vented, but I should understand she was under pressure. I asked her to clarify things with her friends and to acknowledge how much work I'd done. She said I was embarrassing her and that if I couldn't be supportive, maybe I shouldn't be maid of honor. So I stepped down. I sent her a calm message saying I loved her, but I couldn't continue in the role, and I'd still attend as a guest. That's when everything exploded. My parents accused me of ruining the wedding. Emily called me crying, saying I'd abandoned her and that everyone would judge her. Then she sent me an itemized list of expenses she claimed I still owed because I had committed to the role. Some of the items were things I never agreed to, including a welcome gift I'd never even seen. I said no. I told her I would not pay for things I didn't agree to and that I needed space. 2 days later, my mom called and said it might be best if I didn't come to the wedding at all because my presence would cause tension. That hurt more than anything. After everything I'd done, I was being framed as the problem. I decided I wouldn't attend. I sent a message wishing them well and said I hoped the day was beautiful, but I couldn't be there under these circumstances. Since then, extended family members have been messaging me saying I'm selfish, that weddings make people crazy, and that I should just suck it up. A few have said Emily is devastated and cries whenever my name comes up. Part of me feels relieved. I'm sleeping better and not constantly anxious. Another part of me feels like I've confirmed the family narrative that I'm cold and difficult. I keep wondering if I should have just endured it for one day to keep the peace. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after stepping down as maid of honor and setting boundaries. AITA for refusing to babysit my niece anymore after my sister said my job isn't real work. I, 29F, work remotely as a freelance graphic designer. I make a solid living, pay my own bills, and rent my own apartment. I don't have kids, and I've intentionally built my career around flexibility and long hours of focused work. My family, however, does not seem to understand or respect what I do. To them, because I work from home and don't have a boss breathing down my neck, my job is basically a hobby that somehow pays. My sister, Laura, 34F, has a 4-year-old daughter, Mia. I love my niece. She's sweet, energetic, and attached to me. About a year ago, Laura went back to work full-time after being a stay-at-home mom, and childcare became a big issue. Daycare wait lists were long and expensive, and Laura was stressed. I offered to help occasionally, maybe once or twice a week, watching Mia for a few hours while Laura worked half-days or ran errands. I was clear that this was a favor, not a permanent arrangement. At first, it worked fine. Mia would come over with snacks and toys, and I'd schedule my work around it. Over time, though, the boundaries started slipping. Laura began dropping her off earlier, picking her up later, and sometimes asking me last minute to keep her overnight. When I pushed back, Laura would say things like, "You're home anyway," or "You don't have meetings, right?" I reminded her that I had deadlines and clients, but she brushed it off. The breaking point happened a few weeks ago. I had a huge project deadline for a client that accounted for a large portion of my monthly income. I told Laura in advance that I could not watch Mia that week at all. She said she understood. The morning of the deadline, She showed up at my door with Mia anyway, saying her sitter canceled and she had no other option. I said no and explained again that I had to work. Laura got upset and said, "You're seriously choosing your computer over your niece?" I let them in anyway because I felt guilty. That turned out to be a mistake. Mia was restless and loud, which is normal for a 4-year-old, but it completely wrecked my ability to focus. Laura kept texting me throughout the day, asking questions instead of coming back early. When she finally picked Mia up, I was stressed, behind on work, and exhausted. Later that evening, Laura and I got into an argument. I told her this situation wasn't sustainable and that I couldn't be her default childcare anymore. She snapped back and said, "Must be nice to sit at home and play on your laptop all day while I actually work." That comment hit me harder than I expected. I told her my job is real, that it pays my rent and bills, and that dismissing it was disrespectful. She laughed and said, "Please, if it was real work, you have to leave the house." I told her I was done babysitting. Completely. No more favors. No emergencies. No exceptions. She accused me of abandoning her and said I was punishing Mia out of spite. She told our parents, who called me saying I was being selfish and that family helps family. They said Laura is under a lot of pressure and that I should be more understanding. When I explained what Laura said about my job, my mom said, she didn't mean it like that." Now the family dynamic is tense. Laura barely speaks to me, and when she does, it's passive-aggressive. I miss my niece, but I also feel like my time and career were being taken for granted. I've worked hard to build my independence, and I don't think I should sacrifice my livelihood because my sister doesn't respect what I do. At the same time, part of me wonders if I overreacted by cutting off babysitting entirely instead of setting firmer boundaries. So, AITA for refusing to babysit my niece anymore after my sister said my job isn't real work and treated my time like it didn't matter. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue after she announced her pregnancy. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue after she announced her pregnancy. I, 29F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 31M, for almost 2 years. We took our time planning because we were paying for the wedding ourselves and wanted something meaningful but not over the top. After a lot of saving, spreadsheet battles, and touring places every other weekend, we finally booked a small historic vineyard just outside our city. It's sentimental to me because our first trip together was wine tasting there, and it's one of the few venues that fit our guest list and budget. We put down a non-refundable deposit of $8,000 and locked in a date this coming September. My sister Jenna, 33F, has always been the golden child. She's loud, charming, and very good at getting our parents to bend to her will. I'm the quieter one, the responsible one, which in my family means my needs are usually expected to come second because I'll understand. This dynamic has existed my entire life, but I've tried not to let it color my adult relationships. Jenna has been dating her boyfriend Kyle for about a year. They're very on and off, lots of dramatic breakups followed by grand reconciliations. About 3 months ago, she announced she was pregnant. Everyone was thrilled, especially my parents. From that moment on, every conversation became about the baby. Baby names, baby showers, baby room colors. My wedding planning instantly dropped off the family radar. 2 weeks ago, Jenna called me and asked if we could meet for coffee. She sounded unusually serious. When we sat down, she told me that Kyle had proposed and they wanted to get married quickly before she started showing too much. She said they were hoping for a summer wedding. I congratulated her, genuinely. Then she paused and said, "So here's the thing. I love your venue. Like it's perfect. And since you already booked it, it would make sense for us to just use it instead." I thought she meant using it on a different date. I said I didn't think there were any summer dates left, and even if there were, the deposit was in my name. She laughed and said, "No, I mean your date. September might be too late for me, but you could always push yours back. You don't want to be stressed with a wedding right after I give birth, right?" I was stunned. I asked her if she was serious. She said yes, and added that a fall wedding was more my vibe anyway, and that since she was pregnant, she deserved to have things be a little easier right now. She also said our parents would probably help cover the cost if I just let it go. I told her no, calmly but firmly. I said we had been planning this for 2 years. The deposit was non-refundable, and this date and place were important to me. She immediately got upset and accused me of being selfish and unsupportive during the most important time of her life. She left the coffee shop in tears. Within hours, my parents called me. They said Jenna was devastated and stressed, which wasn't good for the baby. They suggested I be the bigger person and let her have the venue, then find another place later. I reminded them about the deposit and the fact that venues in our area are booked far in advance. My mom said money wasn't the point and that family should come first. My dad said that since Jenna was pregnant, her timeline mattered more. I tried to compromise. I offered to help her search for venues, to share vendors, even to move my rehearsal dinner to accommodate her schedule if needed. She rejected all of it and said the vineyard was the only place she wanted. She then posted vague things on social media about finding out who really supports you when you need them most. Several relatives reached out to tell me I was being cold and that a wedding is just one day. What really hurt was when Jenna texted me and said, "If you cared about me or your future niece/nephew at all, you do this. I do it for you." I don't believe that based on our history, but it still stuck with me. Mark fully supports me and says this is an unreasonable demand. He pointed out that if we give in now, this will set the tone for our entire marriage and future family events. I agree, but I also feel like I'm being painted as the villain during what should be a happy time for everyone. Now family gatherings are tense. My parents barely talk to me unless it's to ask if I've thought about it more. Jenna has stopped speaking to me entirely. I'm starting to doubt myself and wonder if holding on to a venue is worth this much conflict, even though I feel deeply wronged. So AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue and date after she announced her pregnancy? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she tried to test my loyalty and humiliate me in front of our family? I, 29F, have always been the reliable sibling. My older sister, Erin, 33F, has been the golden child as long as I can remember. She's charismatic, loud, and everyone describes her as someone who just knows what she wants. I'm quieter, more cautious, and apparently that translated into easy to lean on for my entire life. When Erin got engaged last year, she immediately asked me to be her maid of honor. I was surprised because we aren't particularly close, but I said yes because I thought maybe this was her way of extending an olive branch. Big mistake. From day one, the role turned into unpaid labor. I planned her engagement party, coordinated her bridal shower, designed the invites, wrangled family members, and handled vendor calls because she said dealing with details stressed her out. I also paid for a lot of things up front because she promised she'd get me back later. That never happened, but I told myself it was temporary. The problems escalated when Erin decided she wanted a destination bachelorette weekend at a luxury cabin. She sent us an itemized spreadsheet with costs that added up to more than my monthly rent. When I gently told her I couldn't afford it, she said, "If you really cared about me, you'd make it work." Our mom backed her up, saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime event. I ended up using my savings. I felt sick doing it, but I didn't want to be the difficult one. During the trip, Erin barely acknowledged me unless she needed something. She snapped at me for booking the wrong brand of champagne and accused me of ruining the vibe when I went to bed early after migraine. The real breaking point came a month before the wedding. Erin invited me over, saying she wanted to have a heart-to-heart. I thought she was going to thank me, or at least check in. Instead, she sat me down with her fiancé and my parents on speakerphone. She announced that she had been feeling unsure about my commitment to her wedding. She said I sometimes looked tired, distracted, and not enthusiastic enough, and that made her worry I might abandon her on the big day. Then she revealed she had devised a test. Her idea of a test was asking me to cancel a work trip I had already been approved for, one that would directly affect my performance review, to help her last minute with wedding decor. She said if I said yes without hesitation, she would know I truly prioritized her. I was stunned. I told her that wasn't fair and that my job matters. She laughed and said, "See, this is exactly what I mean. You always put yourself first." My parents chimed in, saying family should come before work and that Erin deserved reassurance. I felt like I was being ambushed. I asked Erin why she didn't just talk to me if she felt insecure. She said she needed proof, not words. I refused to cancel my trip. Erin immediately said she was disappointed but not surprised, and that she needed to reconsider whether I should stand beside her at the altar. 2 days later, she texted me that she was removing me as maid of honor, but still expected me to attend the wedding and help behind the scenes, because that's what supportive sisters do. Something in me snapped. I realized that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. I had emptied my savings, stressed myself sick, and tolerated being treated like staff, not family. And now I was being publicly demoted because I wouldn't sacrifice my livelihood to pass some twisted loyalty test. I told Erin I would not be attending the wedding at all. I said I needed distance and that I was done being used. She responded with a long message accusing me of trying to punish her, of making her wedding about me, and of being jealous of her happiness. Word spread quickly through the family. Some relatives say Erin went too far, but others insist I should be the bigger person and show up to keep the peace. My mom cried on the phone, saying I was tearing the family apart over one disagreement. Erin posted vague social media quotes about betrayal and fake love, which everyone knows are about me. I feel guilty, but also relieved. For the first time, I chose myself without apologizing. Still, I keep wondering if I overreacted and if skipping my sister's wedding is something I'll regret forever. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she tried to test my loyalty and humiliate me in front of our family. AITA for refusing to apologize after my sister's wedding blew up because of a harmless tradition. I, 32F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I moved out early, paid my own way through college, and now have a stable job and a pretty quiet life. My younger sister, Lily, 28F, is the opposite. She's spontaneous, emotional, and our parents have always treated her like she needs to be protected from consequences. This difference has caused friction before, but nothing like what happened around her wedding. Lily got engaged last year and immediately turned into someone I barely recognized. Every decision became a crisis, and every boundary I set was framed as me not supporting her big day. I was asked to be a bridesmaid, which I accepted even though I knew it would be stressful. From that point on, the group chat never stopped. Dresses we had to pay for, shoes we had to buy, a destination bachelorette weekend that cost more than my monthly rent. I tried to keep my mouth shut, but I did tell Lily privately that my budget wasn't unlimited. She said she understood. Fast forward to 2 weeks before the wedding. Lily called me and asked if I could help with a family tradition during the reception. I asked what she meant. She explained that in our extended family, it's common for siblings to give a surprise speech where they share embarrassing childhood stories about the bride or groom. I immediately said no. I'm very private, I hate public speaking, and I don't like humiliating people for laughs. I told her I'd happily give a normal, heartfelt speech, but I wouldn't do anything embarrassing. She got quiet and then said, "It wouldn't be embarrassing, just funny." I repeated that I wasn't comfortable. She sighed and said okay, but her tone made it clear she was upset. At the rehearsal dinner, our mom pulled me aside and told me Lily was heartbroken that I wasn't willing to participate in the tradition. I explained my reasons again. My mom said, "Sometimes you just have to do things for family." I asked why my comfort mattered less than Lily getting a laugh. She didn't answer. On the wedding day, everything seemed fine until the reception. After the maid of honor finished her speech, the DJ announced, and now, a special surprise from the bride's sister. I froze. Lily looked straight at me from the head table with this expectant smile. I stood up, walked to the DJ, and quietly told him there must be a mistake. He looked confused, but handed me the mic anyway. I took a deep breath and gave a short, sincere speech about how Lily and I grew up together, how proud I was of her, and how I wished her happiness. I avoided any embarrassing stories. The room clapped politely, but the vibe definitely shifted. Lily didn't look at me for the rest of the night. The next day, I woke up to a flood of messages. Lily accused me of ruining her wedding and making it about myself. She said everyone was expecting something funny and that my speech was awkward and disappointing. My mom backed her up and said I had publicly defied Lily and embarrassed her in front of her new in-laws. Even my dad said I should have just gone along with it to keep the peace. I told them I had clearly said no beforehand and that springing it on me anyway was unfair. Lily said I should apologize publicly, either on social media or at a family dinner, for letting my issues overshadow her day. I refused. I said I was willing to apologize for any hurt feelings, but not for setting a boundary and sticking to it. Now my family is divided. Some relatives say Lily should never have put me on the spot. Others say weddings are about the couple and that I should have sucked it up for 5 minutes. Lily hasn't spoken to me since, and my mom keeps telling me this could permanently damage our relationship if I don't admit I was wrong. I feel guilty because I know how important the day was to Lily, but I also feel like I was manipulated into a situation I explicitly said no to. I didn't cause a scene, I didn't insult anyone, and I didn't tell embarrassing stories. I just refused to perform the role she wanted. So AITA for not apologizing and standing by my decision, even if it means my relationship with my sister might never be the same. AITA for refusing to give my sister my house keys after she used my home like a free hotel and then accused me of being selfish. I am 32F, married to Mark 34M, no kids. My younger sister Lena is 29F. For most of our lives, I was the responsible one, and she was the free spirit. That dynamic never really changed, even as adults. I bought my house 3 years ago after saving aggressively and taking on a second job. It is not huge, but it is ours, and I am proud of it. Lena rents a small apartment across town. She works in marketing, makes decent money, but spends most of it traveling, going out, or buying expensive clothes. I do not judge her lifestyle, but I am more careful with money. This matters later. About a year ago, Lena asked if she could stay with us for a few days because her building was doing renovations and the noise was driving her crazy. Mark and I agreed. Those few days turned into 3 weeks. During that time, she worked from our dining table, invited friends over without asking, and regularly helped herself to our groceries. She also borrowed my car multiple times because hers was low on gas. I did not say anything because I hate conflict and assumed it was temporary. When the renovations ended, she left without much of a thank you, but I brushed it off. A few months later, she asked for our spare house key just in case. She framed it as an emergency thing. I hesitated, but my mom chimed in saying it was normal for siblings to have keys. Against my better judgment, I gave Lena a key. That is when things escalated. I started noticing little things. Food missing that I knew I had not eaten. The thermostat changed. Packages opened. One afternoon, I came home early and found Lena in my kitchen with 2 friends I had never met, cooking and drinking wine. She said she was just hanging out and that I told her she could come by any time. I had not. I told her calmly that I was uncomfortable with her being in my house when I was not home, especially with guests. She laughed it off and said I was being dramatic and that family does not need permission. After that conversation, I changed the code on our garage, but did not take back the physical key. A week later, Mark and I came home from a weekend trip to find the house clearly used. Sheets in the guest room were slept in. Towels were damp. There was trash in the kitchen. Lena admitted she had stayed there because her place lost power for a night and she did not think it was a big deal. I lost my temper and told her she crossed the line. She cried and said I was treating her like a stranger and that I was choosing my husband over my own sister. My mom called me later and said Lena was hurt and felt unwelcome in what she saw as her family home. Here is where it really blew up. 2 months ago, Mark and I hosted a small dinner for his parents. It was planned weeks in advance. An hour before they arrived, Lena walked in unannounced with her dog, saying she needed to shower before a date because her water was off again. The dog tracked mud on the rug, and she used the master bathroom. I asked her to leave. She refused and said I was embarrassing her. I finally took my spare key back that night. Since then, Lena has been telling anyone who will listen that I banned her from my house and that I am selfish, controlling, and obsessed with my stuff. My mom says I should apologize and give the key back to keep the peace. She keeps reminding me that Lena is family and that one day I might need her. I feel like I've been more than generous and that my boundaries were ignored repeatedly. At the same time, I am being painted as the villain, and it is exhausting. I never said Lena could not visit. I just wanted to ask first and respect that this is my home, not a shared space. AITA for taking back the key and refusing to let my sister treat my house like it belongs to her. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.